So this is a letter to the victim of my crime. When you and I encountered each other, I was already programmed to kill. And I've spent the last 17 years learning just how wrong I was. When I got arrested, I had a 3-month-old daughter and I had a son on the way. And being in prison, I forfeited the opportunity to raise them as a hands-on father. And that's one of the things that I've kept bottled up for so long, like how deeply painful it is to know that I have 2 adult children who I have a very loose relationship with. So now the most important thing to me is being a father to my wonderful young son, Sekou. Now I just pour all of what I would have poured into them, I pour that into him. Is that all?
Yeah.
I grew up on the east side of Detroit originally, my formative years in a 2-parent household. Unfortunately, my parents divorced. In the midst of that, I didn't really get along with my mother. So I ran away, got caught up in the drug culture. Age 17, I was shot multiple times. And 14 months later, I got into a similar conflict and shot and tragically caused a man's death. I was subsequently sentenced to 17 to 40 years in prison. And it was in solitary confinement that I began to discover my passion for writing and mentoring and thought about the things that I would do if I was ever released from prison.
Wait, can it connect to the back of this?
Which was work with young men and women who grew up in similar circumstances.
Get me fixed up.
And help them to make better decisions than I made in my youth.
What city are you gonna be in?
New York too.
You going to New York?
Yeah.
When I leave there, guess where I'm going?
What?
I'm going to Miami.
I'm going to Miami too.
Oh, we gotta hang out when you get in town.
I put forth a sincere effort to really turn my life around, and I wasn't gonna allow my circumstances to dictate my legacy as a father and as a man.
Oh, you sharing?
Yeah.
You're awesome, Sekou. Let's go all the way over
I travel a lot, I'm on the road a lot. And then once I come home, we put forth every effort to ensure that I have quality time with Sekou.
I'm gonna race you.
Oh, you gonna race me?
Yeah.
Whenever we're about to cook or eat, we have to wash our hands.
So Shaka and I are co-parents. We're best friends. We are no longer a couple. However, that has not stopped us from being the best parents that we can possibly be to Sekou.
Yeah.
We met in 2005. I was a volunteer for an organization that did work inside prisons. We started corresponding and started a relationship from there. There is no one answer to why we broke up. Truthfully, despite the fact that we thought we were prepared for him coming home, we were naive, and we started to argue so much, we realized we needed to step away.
How you doing? All right. Juggling custody has been interesting to say the least.
I love you.
I won't say difficult because I have a great parenting relationship with Ebony.
This is my little gift to you, little boy.
What?
Mommy can read it to you later though, but Daddy want to read it to you first. And the first page says, "Why you're so super, Sekou. You're super talented at making people smile."
Shaka travels a lot, so we definitely try to make sure that Sekou feels the love.
I love hearing about your accomplishments. Mommy always tells me all the cool things you accomplish when I'm away.
Even though he knows that we're not together anymore, he doesn't feel the disconnect.
I love you, Dad.
You do? I love you. My name is Shaka Senghor. We're Drop a Gem Publishing, like outside of the books. We do mentoring programs, and I try to give back to the community. What we ended up with is a warehouse of misery and desperation.
He has been on a grind for the past 5 years. He's very personable. He's a great networker.
So this is my first trip to Kansas, and I am with my hostesses. And we've been pulled over by popos back here, so we like this is my intro to, this is what, so young men and women, if you ever want to be a speaker, this is what comes with it. I'm prepping right now for this event. Yo, it's almost that time to go on. Hey.
Gotta get you mic'd up.
All right, they ready to get me mic'd up? I think one of the struggles that we have being fathers is that we haven't created a space where we can be vulnerable and where we can really honestly talk about the things that we're afraid of. Oftentimes, men are thought of as nurturers. That in itself, you know, is one of the greatest tragedies because our children need affection from us. You know, like my son needs to be hugged by me, he needs to have kisses from me and to know that not only do I love him, but I care about him and his well-being and his happiness.
1, 2, 3.
Mommy beat!
Mommy won.
I won, baby.
Mommy probably got a big engine.
I won, Mom.
We're gonna go over Gigi's house, babe.
Come here. The difficult part for me is like the emotions and, you know, sometimes when he's with me, he doesn't want to leave. You know, he cries and that's always hard as a parent. I'm kind.
I'm kind.
I'm generous.
I'm generous.
One of the things that I think about often is him finding out why I was in prison in a mean-spirited way.
Charming.
I am a soldier. This is why I try to protect him and prepare him by doing affirmations so he'll have an idea of who he is.
I'm psycho.
High five. Before somebody tries to tell him who he is in a negative way.
I wasn't a little piggy.
More than anything, I want Sekou to be proud of me as a father. And I want him to see the examples that I set in the ways that I live my life that honor him.
The reality is, no book written about a community can ever touch the power of a book written by somebody from within that situation and from within that community.
So the book just came out yesterday. It's sold out in most stores around the country, which is good. My memoir debuted on the New York Times bestseller list, so that was just like an incredible experience to be able to see my work come full circle. I think the biggest thing for me since the book has come out is the type of feedback I've received from men and women who had struggled with forgiveness, and then just the inspirational letters coming from men and women inside prisons who have been impacted by the book. Having a best-selling book, we're constantly in demand. And one of the things that I'm fortunate and I'm blessed is that there are many opportunities where I'm able to take Sekou on the road with me and allow him to experience what it's like for his father to be a successful author.
I write my name in your book.
Way to go, buddy.
I'm Daddy's son, and I'm 4 years old, and I wish I could work and stuff like that when I will be an adult.
As I continued to write, I slowly began realizing that I had deep emotional issues that I had never addressed. The biggest one being the hurt from my relationship with my mother. I wrote about how vulnerable I was when she forced me to strip before beating me, or when she berated me for something that had been my siblings' fault. I have been a little boy, and regardless of my behavior, no child deserves to hear his mother say, "I'm tired of your nappy-headed ass," or "I wish you'd never been born." I knew that my children deserved to grow up with the love and understanding of their parents. You know, I have an amazing 4-year-old who's running amok in here right now. Hey. But I think it's extremely important for him to really experience the full range of human emotions, and he has to see that, you know, it's okay to be affectionate, it's okay to be loving. I just personally believe through my own experience of being, whooped when I was a child, oftentimes just for being a child, I realized that I didn't want to raise Sekou like that.
I wanted to first welcome everybody to the pre-dinner before the big Super Soul Sunday watch party. We're so excited about it. We're so happy you're here. And Shaka, we are all here to support you, to love on you.
I'm in such a spirit of gratitude right now. Like, the outpouring of support has been incredible. Just thank you all for coming out and celebrating this with me. I really appreciate y'all. Thank you. The night my Super Soul episode with Oprah Winfrey aired, I was fortunate to actually be at home in Metro Detroit. And it was humbling, but I felt like this was a moment for the everyday person. Oh, man. I'm gonna try to get through this without shedding too many tears. It's a very difficult story to share. And I just want people to understand that my mother came from a cycle of hurt. And as we know, hurt people hurt people. And so what I shared was intended to inform, not to indict. I love my mother. We have a complete understanding as to why things were the way that they were when we were coming up. The same thing with my father. Me and my father had a very serious talk when I was incarcerated. And, one of the things that he always shared with me is parenting doesn't come with a manual. And we typically do what we're taught. It's right. But one of the things that we don't think about is the impact that it has on children. So a lot of what I'm sharing is because I really want people to understand what's happening to our young men and women growing up in the community, what some of them have gone through, what some of y'all have gone through, and figure out how can we break this cycle. So we're gonna get to it. Just be mindful that it's a really, really emotional thing, and I'm gonna need a lot of hugs when it's done. Love y'all.
All I ever wanted was a fair chance to just be a human.
My mother actually didn't show up to the event. There was some miscommunication in regards to her transportation, so I was extremely disappointed because I wanted to watch the show with her and assure her that even though I was talking about some of her less than stellar moments, it was never intended to be harmful or hurtful. But she understood that this is really about helping other people, especially young people, find their voice when they've been hurt in their childhood.
I just want to say, as a dad, you walk through hell with gasoline draws on for your children. Whatever they throw at you, you keep ducking and you take it. For 19 years, my wife supported me and visited this young man up and down the highway every prison his ass was in. I've always known all his life when he didn't know this day was coming. I'm proud of this man. I'm very proud of him. Thank y'all.
So earlier this year, Shaka and I started talking more seriously about making a move out to California. We had talked about it over the years. Both of us wanted to be in warmer weather, but our family's here, our work is here. But in the last year, LA was starting to call us.
It's kind of emotional. This is the first home I ever owned. Bought it with the idea to raise Sekou here, but it's time to move on and do something different. And so I'm just excited taking this leap of faith and moving out to Cali. It was really about taking my love of writing and creativity to another level. A lot of the work that I do in criminal justice reform is very emotional work because it's me sharing my worst moment over and over again, and that doesn't feel good, but I know it's for the good. And so I continue to do it, I continue to work on it. But I also realize that there's the potential to burn out in that space because of how emotionally draining it is. And I realized that I needed to feed my creative self, and I needed to get back in a space where I can write and I can just, immerse myself in different worlds.
Shaka is actually moving in a couple days, and then Sekou and I are going to meet him out there in December.
I need you to be big boy. He used to hold mommy down. There's many nights where I'm just like, am I doing the right thing? Am I making the right choices?
When are you gonna come back?
For his future, but more importantly for our present. And it's just not always easy to answer yes to those things.
I love you.
Do you remember when you first saw me?
Yeah, head first. I went to classes. I had like 50 books that I could help deliver you. I wanted to make sure I was the first person to touch you.
I didn't know you took birthing classes.
Yeah. The first night I fell asleep in the hospital holding you. I think it was the most joyous time of my life. What was the hardest thing for you about me being in prison?
Losing a father.
Nobody to answer guy questions.
Yeah. It affected a lot of areas of my life. I cried a lot. Did you worry about me?
Yeah, every minute of the day, man. Throughout that dozen years in prison, I felt like I would die in there. But my biggest fear wasn't losing my life, it was losing my family. When I came home, I felt like I did. When I first saw you, you were so tall. You were like, hey, Dad. You're like a grown man. And I just remember being so proud. You was an intelligent young man. But I felt all that time I did in prison, I played no part in making you the success that you are. And I can't make up for half your life that I missed. That was irreplaceable. But how do you think our relationship has changed over time?
It's getting better. That's the important thing. We can't beat ourselves up about the past. You know, it's happened, it's there. All we have is the present moment.
Yeah. I could care what the world says or thinks. The real damage is what my son thinks.
I'm sorry, Dad.
You don't have to be sorry.
Nah, man, I don't like to see you crying, man. You are my father, despite the jail experience. And I don't want you to think that I don't care.
I know you do. One thing you can never get back is time. And I'm just grateful to move forward as two men, getting to know each other now.